Welcome to Kim Talks Resilience, where we share stories of insight and inspiration in life, love, and business with resilient women from around the world. Speaking with authors, entrepreneurs, founders, and coaches to learn their strategies for a more resilient life so we can all build the life we love. I'm your host, Kim Hayden. Alrighty, welcome back. Thanks for sticking with us and coming back and just leaning into our amazing resilient community here. And if it's your first time here, hang on. I got a ride for you. This is going to be great. For those of you who have been following and for those of you who are new, I am a mother of three, and it's not easy raising kids in today's world. It's not easy being a kid in today's world. I do think that things are harder since I had a corded phone when I was a kid. And the worst thing I did was prank calling people going, "Hey, is your fridge running? Well, you better go chase it." So the things that kids challenge, the world is challenging for them. There's so much going on. And, who do we look to for leadership? How do we ensure that we create the right village for our children to truly excel and become the adults we know that they can be, that they will be, if given the proper support and guidance? My guest today is Chanita, and Chanita is a national board certified teacher. She is a special educator and by nature and by trade. Teaching, speaking, and leading, Chanita serves the spiritual and personal development of youth, young adults, and their families. Chanita equips families with the knowledge, tools, and techniques for self-mastery. Chanita is an activist for social justice, an agent of social change, and an advocate for the educational model that prioritizes self-study and personal learning plans. She is the founder of Light Bearers Institute, LLC, director of Horizons for Youth, author of ABCs for Mental Health, and shining source of light in the world. And, my kids are all raised, but, we all need a little Chanita, and I'm super excited that she is here with us. Welcome to the show, my dear.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm so happy to be here with you today, Kim.
I am excited to learn from you because even though my children are 33, 25, and 22, I still parent, and I am blessed to be a grandmother to 1+1. I have a bonus grandchild, and I have my son has a child, so I get two incredible young people in my world. So I have an 11-year-old and a 5-year-old in my world. And so I'm excited to learn from you today. But before we dive into what you're doing and how you're helping to shift and change the world and supporting youth and families, can you share with us a little bit of who is Chanita?
Yeah, I mean, you really captured a lot of it in my bio. I'm a teacher. I believe in education as a form of activism, and so I'm an activist, and I'm an advocate for the youth and their families, but definitely the wellness of our young people. I think one of the things that came up for me is just the need for self-mastery that was revealed throughout my career, which I've been a teacher forever, right? Like it's just something part of who I am. And as a child, you hear different things about that, like, smart ass or just little subtle things but really I'm a student at heart, and I like to learn, and I like to observe, and I like to share things with people that I learn. And so my professional practice began in 2006 as a special education teacher. And it's interesting because when other people hear special education, they think disability. But when I talk about special education, I think individuality, I think personality, and I think about the practice of designing and customizing personal improvement plans for young people. And so that's what I do, and I love it. And it's been such a blessing to know what my interest is and to kind of walk that path into my purpose. And I really am just here to support other young people on their journey to get there. And I know that I do that with them directly, but also with their families, their communities, the village, so to speak.
The village,
Yes.
it's absolutely a fact, folks. It takes a village to raise a child. And so many of us are living in a vacuum or a silo these
Mhm.
days that, we're away from, we're no longer within the nuclear family reach of our local community. Uh, you know, we're not in church or we're not in an activity, participating with even scouts or all these different things. So now we're in this vacuum and it's just school and the kid, school and the kid.
Mhm.
So how do you do this? I would love for you to share us a little bit about the program and what your families get, what your youth gets from the program itself.
Yeah, so I think I have to start just a little bit about the problem that's being solved
Awesome.
here. So
Please
I'll
do.
back up just a little bit. So one of the things that I just discovered observing the families and students that I was working with, from my lived experience, I am a aunt, a godmother. There are lots of youth in my village, and I started to recognize a pattern of a universal problem because while teaching in schools, my focus was about reading and making sure I did explicit instruction around that, and math and civics and sciences. But one of the gaps that I kept running into was a lack of awareness of personal purpose. Like, why am I doing this? And I love those kids in my classroom, the why, like, why does this matter type of kid, because I really think that being purpose driven is where everything starts, before you can get your process in order, before you can produce anything. And so to go with that piece, one of the things that I build into Liberia's Institute and the classes and courses that we run for youth and families and educators is establishing personal purpose, understanding what that is, the why am I here? What are my gifts? What value do I bring to the world? What do I want for myself? Why am I operating, getting up every day besides I should? I go to school because I should, or somebody else told me to, but really giving people more agency. So that's one of the things. The other problem is that it really matches that is there's a lack of clarity on one's life direction. Where am I going? How do I get there? And so that's another thing that we incorporate into the courses at Light Bearers Institute. And then lastly is this lack of personal fulfillment, like the satisfaction. And that has, really come through my own personal story and journey. But essentially, we want to make sure that the outcome isn't just this accomplishment because somebody else said I had to, but actually there's a sense of personal fulfillment, because when we don't have that, it really dims our light and impacts the rest of the world, those that we interact with. And I think that's especially critical in this time where so many of us are more isolated, so to speak, away from those communities and villages. And so feeding that personal fulfillment, learning how to do that, will help us connect with the proper communities. And so that's something else that we do through our programs at Light Bearers Institute.
I love how you basically got kind of the 3 Ps of what we need to instill in our children:
Exactly.
purpose,
Hmm.
process, and produce.
Yes,
That's what
exactly.
else did I miss? Like, I'm listening to you, you're so eloquent, and it brings up so many questions in my head.
Mm.
As a parent, um, how do we ensure, so you've got these extremes within parenting. You have
Hmm.
the parent that they schedule the crap out of their kid every moment of their day. They're doing 5 different
Hmm.
activities a week. They're going to be the best at everything, and there's this huge pressure. And I don't know how a child can find their purpose when they're being
Hmm.
pressured by other people's initiatives, right? But then
Exactly.
you have then you have parents like my husband and I were who are both entrepreneurs and in real estate, and we were not the best at ensuring that our children did their homework or anything, so maybe we lacked in
Hmm.
driving our children, right?
Hmm.
How do you
Hmm.
find a balance in helping your children find their own purpose,
Hmm.
right? But when they don't know what their own purpose is, supporting them in creating that momentum. So
Ooh.
what is the balance? Because it's hard.
Those are two great questions. So, one of them in helping them to establish purpose and how I see the parent's role or the village's role, because it may not be the parent, but it's really being observant of your child, even in that small amount of time. Because the families that I work with, they're working 2, 3 jobs, they're going to school, they may have multiple children, and it's really hard to carve out the individual time to really get to know, or not to get to know your child. You know them, right? They came from you. You all live together, but to give that individualized attention. But during that time, when you carve it out, it's really important to pay attention to their natural gifts, because purpose is going to be revealed through our nature. It's already within us. We don't have to look for it. We have to tune to it. And as children or young people, they need us as the adults who are witnessing them and interacting with them. They need us to help them to recognize that by celebrating the things that we see that they're doing naturally. And I like to use the word celebrate intentionally, because when like I'm saying about myself, it's one, you're a smart ass or know-it-all or nerd, and you hear those things and it doesn't sound like a celebration of what the natural gifts are. And so then they end up with this low self-concept that they have to rework. So there's two things in there. There is spending some time with them, giving them opportunities. Because I think, to your other point about when they don't know, it's really carving out. So you can't fill their schedule so much that they're doing so many things they can't even figure out if they like it. And in fact, they don't like it because they're tired. They can't process and really engage in it from a peaceful place, but presenting opportunities for them to explore, to engage in different things, to engage with different people. So that's one thing, making that time, recognizing the things that you can celebrate about them as their natural state of being, and really lifting that up. And I think that helps them to reveal purpose. That helps them to maybe find other things that are similar that they can practice those skill sets
Yep.
in and grow from there.
I totally agree. Like, where were you when I was raising my kids? They could have used
I'm
some
here
help.
now.
They could have used your help. It's for anybody who's out there raising children, it's not easy. This isn't, and but the opportunities, I believe, are endless, because I think that there's so many things that have been gifted to us that, through technologies and awareness in today's world, that we can make very different choices. And I'm not here to give my mother a hard time or my grandmother a hard time, because God love them, they did the best they could with this.
And look at us, we're doing all right.
I was always, Kimberly Joe, you're so unique. Or my report card every year. Every year. And every person that I know that's ADHD has had this statement said to them. Kimberly Joe, if you only applied yourself. Yeah. So that was literally what I grew up with, And what's beautiful, I think, about today is that we do look at our children's capabilities very differently. My youngest, she is dyslexic, significantly dyslexic, but that girl can remember every word in every song. She can rap and recite with the best musicians out there, because her memory is incredible. And all we did was get her some different tools.
Kim, what you make me think about that I think is another thing for parents to recognize is to step away from the shoulds, how they should be, our expectations. I think in today's world, when we're thinking about diversity, like we're talking about everybody's an individual and recognizing the different intelligences. And so, no, my first baby don't look like my second baby, but they are both perfect as they are with their own gifts and unique strengths. And that's what I hear you saying about your children and recognizing their uniqueness.
How does a parent, so in working with the the foundation of a child is their intelligence and intellect, their purpose, their ability to move through life, who they're going to be when they're 40, 50, 60, is actually a lot of that. They're finding that a lot of people's purposes are found between the ages of 8 and 14. Those are very high developmental years, right? What are some strategies overworked and tired families can do to allow their child to explore their purpose, especially in the years that maybe that child has just torn apart the toaster and you're going, seriously? I don't have money for a new toaster, right? What are some things?
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I just want you to share with me, like, share with the audience, what are some ways that we can encourage our children's purpose?
Well, I'm going to say enroll them in Light Bearers Institute where we can support them with doing that. But I think as a parent at home with your child, it's establishing a structure for the boundaries so that they're not, driving you crazy, taking apart the toaster or what have you, but really encouraging some self-study with some guided support. So there are some tools that you can implement through daily reflections around the dinner table. So you're busy, but you all have to eat, right? Or you're spending time in the kitchen cooking, even if they're not in there eating with you. But then that's an opportunity for you to invite them in and ask them questions about what they're good at, what have they gotten into, what questions really explore their ideas, interests, and imagination and hold space for that. So whatever that may look like in your household, based on your resources of time or otherwise, that's going to be a big thing. Asking them about their ideas, interests, imagination, making that a regular part of the conversations, because then they're conditioning themselves to think about that and doing that self-study, and it becomes part of their daily life.
Awesome. So in your journey to get where you are now, I always ask that hard question, that question of resilience, because as I said, I recently watched this anthropologist and they were talking about how they're starting to be able to trace back some of the great motivational speakers and the great, thought leaders. And they're tracing back their purpose of what they're doing in their 40s and 50s and 60s to this really limited window between the ages of 8 and 14. What do you have a story of resilience that you are open to sharing with us, be it through going through university, growing up? Did you have a challenge in education? But if you could share a story of resilience and then how you pushed through that, that would be awesome.
Absolutely. Let me think. I think the thing that came up for me, because I think I had something that I wanted to share here, but I'm just going to kind of fly off the cuff because you talked about that age of 8 to 14 and thinking about my resilience in that space. It was recognizing that things weren't right. And it took such a toll on me. So I'm young, I'm observing things. And when I say things aren't right, it's specifically in the classroom or diversity, right? So in my household, my mother had 3 children, and I was the middle, and we were all different. And my mom, she was really just naturally aware of these things. But one time it's report card time in our household, and I come in, I was always a great student because that's naturally learning, and in the school setting really suited me. But my brother, not so much. So I come in with my all A's and a B, and he comes in and he has at least 3 C's, Kim. And my mom's response to me is like, you could have did better, right? Like, this could have been all A's. And then her response to my brother is like, good job, like this whole celebration, and he's older than me. And I'm like, wait a minute, like, what is this about? And I get indignant. I've been outspoken for a long time. And my mom gives me this lesson where she says that, because I'm saying it's not fair. And she said, fairness doesn't mean that everybody gets the same thing. Fairness means that everybody gets what they need. And it was like a mind-blowing revelation for me that really shifted the conflict that I was having internally about competition and comparison with those people that are around me that would, and that competition and comparison created low self-concept, low self-confidence, and that's one place. But then also this ego of when I was good at something or better at something, like really needing all of this external validation. Now, dealing with those issues has been an ongoing process in my life, but the takeaway from there was really learning how to honor my uniqueness, my authenticity, and allowing that space for other people. It's really improved relationships, and also the thing that I fought for. So seeing that those things weren't right in my classes, the problem is I'm like standing up to the teacher about an issue that doesn't have anything to do with me. However, it really gave me an opportunity to exercise my voice, to show up, and then to hold space for other people doing the same.
And I would think that that would give you an actual example of choice of words and choice of engagement that you could share with the parents of the youth that you serve, the youth that you're helping to guide.
Yeah, especially around conversations about um, the unmet expectations that parents have about their children. We have these visions, and usually it has to do with us really wanting to create that path for them. We want success for our children. We want them to be able to do well. And we think that there's a certain way that it has to look. And so my experience in life, the one that I had with my mother, but then also everyone that I've had in my career, and just the unfolding of living in purpose, has taught me that there doesn't have to be one way to success, because ultimately what we want for our children is for them to live independently, to live satisfied with life, so to be successful. But we have to release some of our hold about what that may look like, release control about that, and really open up our minds as parents and adults that are providing guidance for young people.
And that's a really hard one. That's a hard one for parents. It really is.
Yeah, so one of the things that I do in my work, I work with families, and we start with our young people. You mentioned that I'm the director of academic supports at Horizons for Youth, and we start with them at a very early age. They come into our program by the time that they are 7 or 8 years old, and then they're with us for many years. And one of the things that's been coming up lately is how many of our students, when they come to be seniors and they're about to go off into to life, their families really want them to go to college, and they want them to take this really traditional path. And it may not at all match the character and the unique gifts or talents or interest ideas of this young person. And it ends up being a conflict between them and their parent. The parent is like, this is what you have to do. Like that's the only way for them to get
Yep.
security. And I think part of that is having to recondition our whole society about other paths and alternative means to success, the trades, or just things that are beyond our imagination, right? So that's one thing with the parents, but then also encouraging the young people to kind of stand into their own is another piece. And so finding that space is really difficult. But when I ask parents, what do they want for their children? Now they may start, and we may really start at like college. And then the question becomes why, because I focus on purpose. But why do you want them to go to college? Well, I want them to get a degree, but why do you want them to, so that they can get a job? Well, why? So they can take care of themselves. Well, why? So that they're living fulfilled. Okay, let's start with fulfillment. If the ultimate purpose is that they're able to feel fulfilled, let's maybe backwards plan from there. And that really helps them to kind of dissolve the rigidity in our minds about
Mhm.
what it has to look like, and see other ways that they can reach that for themselves. And also, we have to surrender a little bit as parents, and that can be challenging too.
I 110% agree with you. And I think that parents who are in their 30s right now, 30s and 40s, that are raising these young children, the world is very different, very different than
Mm,
it was when we were being raised.
mhm.
So it was interesting. I saw a professor by the name of Dr. Joseph Coughlin, who is a age specialist at MIT.
Okay.
And I went to his talk, and this was like 5 years ago, 6 years ago, before COVID. So I would like, I would love to know what he thinks now with COVID in the rearview mirror. But he talked about how traditional education will not always be the go-to, because the way that we get textbooks approved through universities, by the time it gets there, like computer science textbooks and all these different things, the information's actually outdated with the rate of technology advancement. Of course, things that you we will always need schools for is law. We will need schools for math. We will need schools for sciences and medicine, because these are fundamentally always going to have a core basis to them that will transcend whatever comes at us through technology.
Mhm.
But it's what's fascinating is all of this movement forward has thrown us back to, we need trades, and trades make good money. We so
Great money.
desperately need framers and plumbers and electricians. We cannot get enough of these and we see a housing crisis. Well, a
Mhm.
housing crisis gets adjusted if you have more people who can work on houses.
Mhm.
So these are realities. So yeah, I did not go to university. And I was basically kind of written off as a lost cause by ninth grade. And it is what it is. It's shaped me into the resilient person I am.
Mhm.
And the reason I believe people's messages matter is
Mhm.
because everybody deserves to be heard.
Mhm.
Um, so, I love what you're saying, and I love what you're doing at Lighthouse, because there is no clear path for parenting anymore.
Mm.
What we did 100 years ago, 50 years ago, is not what we can do today if we prepare children for 50 years
Mhm.
from now.
Exactly.
I love it.
Yeah.
I always ask about books you recommend, because whether you read it or listen to it, books allow us to grow. Can you? This is the We Want to Do More Than Survive. This is the book you recommended, and I'd like to know why you believe this is a book we should read.
Because she really sets the framework and background information for recognizing why we need this revolution in education. So even the conversation that we're having about parenting and the foundations and the things that need to stay the same about our traditions, but there is a lot that needs to change and evolve about our traditions so that we can really reach as a nation, that liberty and justice for all that we speak to, but then also just more broadly on a global scale. I think that Bettina Love, an educator, has done a great job of giving us the purpose behind this revolution, behind the evolution that we're needing to see and be a part of.
And I love the fact that we are now moving into a time of Web3 opportunity. There is a new university that I just came across last year. Interviewed a gentleman who out of Germany, and it's Web3 is open source. So this is stuff I've had to learn. This is not intuitive in the sense that I grew up with it. Open source is where multitudes of people provide their information. There's a new university called edx.org, and edx.org is free to attend. So you can attend lectures from Harvard, Oxford, in Berkeley, all of
Yes,
them.
I
And the
love
only
that.
thing you're paying for, I know the only thing you're paying for is the books and the exams.
Mm, okay.
So I believe we're going to see real equalization within our education systems, so that, and we have to have this. We
Yes.
have to have equalization within our education, because food, shelter, medication, and education are the four fundamental things that
Mhm.
help us be good humans, help us be humane.
Mhm.
So, so yeah, I love what you're doing. I would at this can you share with us where we can find you, how we can engage with you, and again give us a bit more information on Lighthouse, and is that a regional support or is that something online? Like how if I'm a young family out there, and as we know, cost of living has gone up, there's food scarcity, shelter scarcity. There is so many things going on right now in the world that are really in that scarce space.
Mhm.
Share with us how we can lean into the Lighthouse.
Yes. So one of the things is just teachershanita.com is where you're going to find out about Light Bearers Institute and the programs that we have. I do a monthly free course for families. So there's a workshop for the parents because you can't pour from an empty cup and everything starts at home. And that's the foundation. And that gives you access and you'll be empowered to be able to pour into your children and also just transform your own conditions. And so that's one of those things that's offered in addition to ABCs for mental health, which is going to be a tool set that you can use as a parent, but you can also work through with your child to really support them and establishing that healthy, loving, stable relationship with themselves, which is the foundation, right? We need to be at home in ourselves before we can make our homes in the world. And so teachershanita.com. And additionally, you'll find about the classes that we offer for our young folks that are ages 12 to 21. So that's one place. You can also just, I do regular loving lessons where I provide purpose, practice, and processes that people can use to produce more alignments with the things that they love. So you can find that in my socials. So Instagram at Chanita Solrei, LinkedIn, Chanita Solrei, and then on TikTok as Teacher Chanita. So I really look forward to connecting with you all further, but there's my website will lead you to any other place where you can find everything that about me and how to connect.
And if you're listening in and you want to know, it's teacher, and Shanita is Chanita. So I just want to make sure you're going to the right place so you can get access to any kind of tools, support. And I love the fact that you do kind of an open call each month to help support, because like I said, it's I am seeing this personally, watching my son raise his son, and it's a challenging world to be in for a lot of people, and we as parents just want to do the best by our children, right?
Yes, yes. And you are by showing up for them. And so there's no perfect way to do it. And so I just want to encourage everybody listening to give yourself grace and just take one step at a time towards whatever is better for you guys.
Excellent. And we will have all of Shanita's contact information, information for Lighthouse. We're going to have everything in the show notes. I promise. If you're listening to this, because I know 71% of all podcasts are all audibly consumed, and you need to go, we're going to have all of her information and contacts and resources in the show notes. Shanita, I always like to close out the show with a great quote, and you provided one for us. Can you share the quote and then also tell us why you think this quote's important?
Yes. So the quote that I chose for resilience is don't buy tomorrow's problems today. One of the things that we do is we start to worry about things that are beyond where we are today. And it puts us in a space of stuckness or anxiety of so many things. And it's like that's beyond your control. Tomorrow isn't here yet. Let's stay present in today. What can I do with what I have, with where I'm at? It really gets us to center our space into presence. And so don't buy tomorrow's problems today. They'll be there tomorrow if that's where they're supposed to be. You be here today with what's in front of you.
Amazing. Thank you, Shanita. I really appreciate your time. I feel everything you're doing. As a mother, I really appreciate what you are working towards to serve our future.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thank you so much. Thank you.
All right, folks. You know what? Until next time, we've got lots of other great episodes. Stick around, check them out. And like Chanita said, give yourself some grace. We're all doing the best we can. Thank you for joining us here today at Kim Talks Resilience. I'm your host, Kim Hayden, and I'd love to invite you to our resilient community at resilientgift.com. That's resilientgift.com, and we'll send you our magazine and tickets for upcoming events and all sorts of cool things we do here. So be sure to keep watching, and you know what? Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, and share, because we all know that sharing is caring.